weeks as I get ready to head off to Burning Man. Perhaps Wednesday morning there will be one more, but we are leaving Wednesday morning, so we shall see. Okay, welcome everybody to Sunday Morning Miracles. Today we are on chapter 15, section 7, called the Needless Sacrifice. Oh, man. And we'll dive into that in a second. But I want to open it up today with Marianne Williamson's A Year of Miracles. And, I just had one that I opened to. And I'm going to read just a little section from what she shares with us in this book called A Year of Miracles. And this is a great one. It's called Meeting Limits with Unlimited Thought. Our power lies in meeting limited circumstances with unlimited thought. It is not what happens to us, but what we choose to think about what happens to us that determines what will happen next. If our circumstances tempt us to think thoughts such as, I'm such a loser, I will never have another chance, it will take forever for this situation to right itself, or I hate whoever is to blame for this, then miracles, though they are programmed into the nature of the universe, cannot make their way into our awareness. They're in the computer, but we're not choosing to download them. With every thought we think, we either summon or block a miracle. That's powerful. With every thought we think, we either summon or block a miracle. It is not our circumstances then, but rather our thoughts about our circumstances that determine our power to transform them. We choose in life whether to live in victimization or in victory. We have the power either way. Power to use against ourselves or power to use to free ourselves. The point is that we always have the choice, and it is not always as simple as it appears. Wow. Amazing. It is on day 210 of A Year of Miracles. So as we dive into today, I want to just share about my upbringing around God as well. I feel like so many of us have what I call religious PTSD. You know, what was militantly brought upon us of how and what we need to do in order to receive the grace and love of God. We need to make sacrifices. We need to be less of ourselves, and we need to devote more. And there's always something that we need to do in order to earn, right? And from that place, that's the beginning of the unworthiness conversation. We have to prove our worth in order to receive God's love. And here's the thing about it is that God never asked us to make any sacrifices. God only asked us to be willing to receive what has always been ours already. And this unworthy and not enough conversation and the sense and feeling of inadequacy, the judgment on ourselves, the Course says, no one can escape your judgments. If you judge others, you cannot escape it. If you judge yourself, others cannot escape it. Right? So this comparison and the judging of others was started from this whole shame and guilt of feeling like we have to earn our way. And perhaps our parents or somebody imprinted on us that they had to make all these sacrifices, right? It's like, do you know how many things I had to sacrifice for you? Parents use that, right? It's guilt. And know this, guilt is always attached to the ego. Guilt and shame are always attached to the ego. The Holy Spirit does not ask that of us. The Holy Spirit asks us to the only sacrifice that really is justified is the letting go of the idea of sacrifice itself. That's what the Course says. The Course asks us, you don't need to make any sacrifices. You need to let go of illusions. The ego is an illusion. The ego was created, just like Marianne Williams said right here. You have the power to choose to be in victimization mode or in victory. The Holy Spirit reminds you of victory. The ego reminds you of victimization. And the power is in us to transform our thoughts. And every thought we think either summon or block miracles. There is no in between. You want to experience miracles? Change your thinking. Change the way you think about the circumstances in your life. Right? See them as a blessing. Gratitude cannot be in this, does not share the same space as the feeling of guilt and shame. So, as we dive into today's section, one of the first things I want to do is open up like the contrast, right? The contrast of parents' sacrifice for their children, in relationships, like in couples, we sacrifice for each other. In religion, you glorify sacrifice as a proof of devotion. I was just watching this show called Barbarians, and they always made sacrifices too. It's as if you can make a deal with God, right? Like if I just sacrifice this, I remember when I was younger, anytime that I felt scared or I want something to happen really badly, I will make a deal with God. God, I will, this is the thing that I always said, and this is obviously coming from some shame too. I was like, God, I will be so nice to my sister. I will be the best big brother ever if blank happens. Like we're just making deals. I don't know what type of deals you guys made, but I just remember that's how I've always made deals. It was like we will only receive something if we did something else, we gave something else. And so the Course is asking us, it's the opposite. Love and sacrifice does not occupy the same space. It's not the same thing. And so the ego insists that if we are to get closer to God, then we must lose something else of ourselves. We must give up pleasure. We must give up joy. We must give up our identity, right? And if you think about it, like, why would God ask for you to be in suffering so that you can be with him? It just doesn't really make sense if you break that down like that, right? And so that's what the ego insists. But the Holy Spirit insists that we see reality clearly. That love is something never made sense to me. Yeah, it's so crazy. It doesn't make any sense, but somehow our world operates in that logic, which is crazy, right? And love gives everything and asks for nothing in return. This is the correction in our mind that we have to step into, is invited into, is that the way that we have love is that love is asking for something out of others from a sense of inadequacy. And we are giving love to others in order to get something ourselves. And that is what the Course says we have mistaken love to be, because love asks for nothing in return. Now, if we can just simply take today's call as a mantra for ourselves, love asks nothing in return. Love asks for nothing in return. And as we talk and communicate with others today, can we remember for ourselves that love asks for nothing in return? The way that we give feels cleaner. You know, we're not giving with a string attached to it. Remember a couple of weeks ago, I had mentioned a friend of mine giving his girlfriend a necklace. And he got really upset that she wasn't wearing it, right? Like, what kind of giving is that? That's the way, that's all of that comes from this guilt, shame, unworthiness that we have to prove ourselves. And all of our operations, our operating system up to this point is attached to that idea that somehow sacrifice is necessary for us to be under the grace of God, to receive God's love. And because the initial mistake, the original error, was that we felt like sacrifice was needed, we have operated our entire lives off of that first error. So then can we see that everything else that came after that could be forgiven, could be a mistake, an error that gets to be corrected just in our thinking. Everywhere that we thought somebody wronged us, every time that we have a disagreement with somebody, people that we hold grievances towards, how do we give love that we felt like something was taken from us? The idea that something can be taken and I have to give up something is literally attached to itself. And so if we were able to correct the original error, what parts of the stories that came after that do I need to be attached to? My entire identity could be changed immediately just off of the correction of the original error. I love sharing the story of how Marianne Williamson experienced her parents. You know, we all have an experience of our parents. They are this way, they are this way, they are that way. And so she experienced growing up that there was a lot of instability in her parents' relationships. There was a lot of fights and arguments, and she witnessed it, and she took on these stories. She's like, I can't be in a good relationship. I don't, it's just not for me. Relationships are hard. And so she grew up and lived into her adult life not being able to have a solid relationship. She took all that on, but was that the truth? We know now, like just hearing that story, that that's not the truth, because we know plenty of other relationships that need not be that way, right? But that was the truth for her until her father passed away, and she found love notes from her dad to her mom. And it immediately changed all of her perception of their relationship. Do we need to wait for somebody to pass away to be able to forgive? Of course, it's easier, but we need not wait that long, right? So part of, what we're sharing here today is, who do I get to forgive? Because I've painted a picture of them that's not the true essence of who they are either. There's a story that I'm missing. The story that is connected to that's connected to the miracles that come and follows through in my thought system, in my mind, immediately after I correct that thought. So once that image changed of her dad, her whole childhood, she's like, man, maybe my past didn't happen the way that I thought. And that's what the Course has asked us. It evokes this question is, your past did not happen the way that you thought. See, that's not an ask of you to sacrifice your past and to sacrifice your identity. That is an asking for you to be willing to have a holy mind. See, it's not the same thing. I'm not asked to sacrifice my story so that it hurts my identity of who I am today. What I'm being asked is my willingness to see my past differently, so that I may clear the channel for the messages and the downloads to come, for God to speak to me. And may I open that channel up even more through prayers. Right? The willingness allows the messages to come. The prayers allow my messages to go up. And the channel becomes clear. Our only problem is that channel is not clear. And because that channel feels like it's clogged and blocked, we see sections of it. And everything becomes separate. That channel is what unifies all of my thoughts. That channel brings my dual mind to one mind. But when that channel is blocked, I see separation. When that channel is blocked, I feel like I'm a victim to the things that are happening in the world. When that channel is blocked, I can't see clearly. and I demand sacrifice, and I feel like sacrifice is demanded of me. So today, reframing this, like holiness does not have to do with sacrifice. Holiness actually has to do with joy. Remembering that we already have everything and God has already given to us everything. See, that comes with a level of gratitude, and that comes with a level of sovereignty where nothing outside of me can take or add to me. That's the reclaiming of your power. That's the remembering of who you are as the son, as the child of God. And so when sacrifice starts to show up in our mind, when we think I must lose something in order to gain, we can interrupt that, right? We may not have the exact solution or an answer, but we can say that is not the truth. First, we must disconnect the idea that sacrifice and truth are somehow connected. So whenever we have those thoughts today, oh, I'm giving of myself, I'm sacrificing, and anytime that idea of sacrifice comes, we can interrupt ourselves and say, that's not the truth. Right? And so as we step into today, the needless sacrifice, I'm going to begin by reading this section here. It's not very long, but I'll read this section. And as I read this section, allow yourself to tap into this truth, that sacrifice was never necessary in order for me to be in God's graces. I never needed sacrifice in order to receive love. See, what you want, you just give. If you want something, you give it because love expands through sharing. No loss happens when love is shared. Love is not diminished when it is shared, it just multiplies. So how can the sacrifice of love get me more love? Right? When we start to look at it from that place, this is part of our remembering of the truth. Last week we went into God's laws, the holy instant and the laws of God. That truth. So as we share today, as we read the needless sacrifice in this section, just invite you to allow yourself to be open. Right? I'm not telling you anything that you don't already know. We are clearing out the blockages to the awareness of love. You're not adding anything new. Okay, because deep inside, your soul already knew. You knew that all this demand of sacrifice and guilt and shame, like some part of you just feels contracted from that you know that that's not the way. All right. So what it'll look like today is I will read this section, and I invite you guys to bring your awareness and your attention to it. Not having to follow every single word for word. If you get lost a little bit, that's completely okay too, right? Just tune back in, because our minds, the ego wants to escape. The ego does not want to really hear this. So bring yourself to the presence to be able to listen to it, right? The ego is going to want you to do a bunch of other things to distract yourself from this. And so we have a really great opportunity to really embody and learn this lesson, this remembering, which is one of the biggest ones. Like I said before, we all started off being guilted and shamed into sacrifice, right? Our parents are like, you know what I have to sacrifice for you? And then we're being asked to make all these sacrifices in order to be under the good graces of God. This is the original error, that somehow I could be separate from God, from miracles, from truth, from each other. And we're demanded to make sacrifices in order for that connection to happen again. And it is not so. So here we go. It's the needless sacrifice. Okay, this is a big one for the course. I feel like every week is a big one, but this is a big one. If you are here today, just know this is the lesson. This is what your soul is wanting to hear, is needing to hear in order to evolve to the next. Evolve or return, one or the others, but return back to its pure source, pure essence of itself. So the needless sacrifice. Beyond the poor attraction of the special love relationship, and always obscured by it, is the powerful attraction of the Father and his Son. So let me just make that distinction real quick in case you guys haven't been here in a while. There are two types of love that the Course speaks about. One is a special love, and the other one is the holy love, is the perfect love. All right, so the special love is the way that we do love. Love goes here, this place does not get my love, we withhold love here, and this person gets my love. Everything happens on conditions. Special love is a conditional love. And the more that we justify conditional and special love, the more we create separation for ourselves. And in that separation for ourselves, our minds become disturbed. And it'll look like different forms of disturbances, but it's all the same thing. It just looks different in form as our mind becomes more fragmented everywhere that we do special love. So the Course is inviting us to interrupt our special love. This person gets my attention because they do this. This person gets my love because they do this. That person does not get it because they are this way and that way. And this is something that the ego will fight you really hard on, because even as I share this is not about doing every relationship perfectly. This is just about a possibility to live into for yourself. Special love. Where am I withholding love? And the ego part of our mind is going to go into duality. Oh, but I can still perfect, holy love this person and still withhold my love. And that's the ego's trickery. The ego's trickery is like, yes, you can do this and you can do this. The Course says only one is possible. One is always at the expense of the other. You cannot do both. That's why the ego says sometimes there can be light, sometimes there can be darkness. The Holy Spirit collapses time together into one, and all of it into just this holy instant, this present moment. Is there light or is there darkness? Right here, right now. Whichever one you choose. If you choose light, then you summon miracles into your life. If you choose darkness, then you will push away the miracles. All right, so it's only this instant that matters. All of your miracles happen right here, right now. And it's the holy instant that collapses all time. But the ego uses the time and say, no, there is light and there's darkness. Yes, in this dream world there is, but bring back to perfect thought, perfect love. The Course says there are opposites. The opposite of love is fear, but what is all-encompassing can have no opposites. So you just took two ideas, light and darkness, and you brought it into one by saying that love, what is all-encompassing can have no opposites. So now we begin to go beyond special love and special hate. We go into perfect love, which is all-encompassing of the two specialness that's existing. Our journey is to bring our duality, our dual minds, into perfect oneness, even if it's just for moments, because it's only moments that counts. It's not the past, it's not the future. It's right here, right now, this moment, the holy instant. This counts, and this moment offers you all the miracles. If you but just have the willingness to listen, right? Not to sacrifice anything, because, the Course says Yes, the ego says you have to sacrifice your illusions. But when you sacrifice nothing, you're not really sacrificing anything, because the ego and those thoughts that come with it are illusions. So the sacrifice of nothing is really not sacrificing. Right? That's what the Course is saying. All right. Sorry, went off on a tangent. There is no other love that can satisfy you, because there is no such thing as other love. Great. This is the only love that is fully given and fully returned. Being complete, it asks for nothing. Being wholly pure, everyone joined in it has everything. This is not the basis for any relationship in which the ego enters. Nope, not the ego. For every relationship on which the ego embarks is special. Special, conditional, strings attached, withholding, all of that. The ego establishes relationships only to get something, and it will keep the giver bound to itself through guilt. It is impossible for the ego to enter any relationship without anger, for the ego believes that anger makes friends. This is not its statement, but it is its purpose, for the ego really believes that it can get and keep by making guilty. This is its one attraction, an attraction so weak that it would have no hold at all, except that no one recognizes it. For the ego always seems to attract through love and has no attraction at all to anyone who perceives that it attracts through guilt. Special love ultimately ends in guilt because its basis is guilt. People have to earn my love. People have to earn my respect. People have to earn to be in my good graces. And where did that stem from? That stemmed from us thinking we have to earn the good graces and the love of God, right? So its basis is guilt. If you want more guilt in your life, great. Create more special relationships. It's not to say that it's going to have you return back to the kingdom earlier or later than somebody that's not doing special relationships. Because at some point, you will just get so fed up with the way that you have so much disturbances in your mind. You're going to get on your knees and say, Holy Spirit, take all of it. It'll happen one way or the other. You can joyfully awaken, or you can not joyfully awaken. The Course says that's your two options. The destination is set. The journey of how you experience it, that's up to you. The destination is set for everybody. Don't worry about that. God will take the last step. But do you want peace as you're going towards that? Or do you want to be struggling all the way through? Unless you are already fully at peace, then you can say, whatever, I don't care about this special relationship, holy relationship. I got it already. But just know that shoving it under the carpet is not going to help you. All right. So we got to do this work, and it's not really a work. It's just letting go. Is letting go of something work? If you're holding onto the rope too tight and just let go of it, is that work? To many spiritual seekers, yes, that's the work, but really that's the easiest work that you can possibly do, is just to let go of your grip on it. The sick attraction of guilt must be recognized for what it is. All right, so this is the Course saying you must recognize this guilt. You must recognize that guilt is involved with the way that you do conditional and special love. For having been made real to you, it is essential to look at it clearly, and by withholding your investment in it, to learn to let it go. Man, so the work itself is just to stop investing into it. Stop investing into your grip on the rope, on the ego itself. Stop the investment in guilt and shame and perfect love. Stop investing into it. Because we do. Think about our daily, as we go throughout the day, we continue to invest into guilt and shame by reinforcing the stories we have around our relationships. And justifying why we should withhold from a brother or from a sister, rather than thinking about shifting that relationship so that I can have a miracle show up for me. And oftentimes we got to push beyond what we thought as the identity of Alex, what's comfortable for Alex, in order for us to step into that. Right? But it's literally just withholding your investments into guilt and shame. It's not work. Just stop investing into it. No one would choose to let go what he believes has value. Yet the attraction of guilt has value to you only because you have not looked at what it is and have judged it completely in dark. We literally justify guilt and attack and withholding and we associate it with our safety and security. That's how crazy we are as the ego mind. I am withholding love for my sense of safety. That's guilt for you right there. That's the attraction of guilt. And we don't even know that we're attracted to it. Yet the attraction of guilt has value to you only because you have not looked at it for what it is. You have judged it completely in the dark. As we bring light to it, your only question will be why it was never wanted. Why you ever wanted it in the first place. You have nothing to lose by looking open-eyed for ugliness such as this belongs not in your holy mind. This host of God can have no real investment here. We said before that the ego attempts to maintain and increase guilt, but in such a way that you do not recognize what it would do to you. Seek but do not find is the ego's game, and through guilt, we reinforce and invest back into guilt constantly because we have no idea what the investment is paying. Somehow we believe that, the ego has us do that by maintaining guilt and increasing guilt because we don't recognize what it's doing. For it is the ego's fundamental doctrine that what you do to others, you have escaped. The ego wishes no one well, yet its survival depends on your belief that you are exempt from its evil intentions. Its counsels, therefore, if you are host to it, it will enable you to direct his anger outwards, thus protecting you. And thus it embarks on an endless, unrewarding chain of special relationships forged out of anger and dedicated to but one insane belief, that the more anger you invest outside yourself, the safer you become. Oh my God. Like, what a freaking line. The more anger you invest outside yourself, the safer you become. That is the ego's game for you. Like, what the Course is asking us right now is to open our eyes and to look at the way we doing relationship and how we have used guilt as the basis of how we built our special relationships. It is this chain that binds the Son of God to guilt, and it is this chain that the Holy Spirit will remove from his holy mind. For this chain of savagery belongs not around the chosen host of God, who cannot make himself host to the ego. You can't host the ego and God at the same time, right? What was that? What's that acronym for ego? Edging God out. Edging God out. Like, what a great acronym for ego. In the name of his release and in the name of him who will release him, let us look more closely at relationships the ego contrives and let the Holy Spirit judge them truly. For it is certain that if you will look at them, you will offer them gladly to him. What he can make them, you do not know, but you will become willing to find out if you're willing first to perceive what you have made of them. So we have to first look at what we have made out of our relationships. And then we will be willing to let them go because it's not serving us. If it's serving you, then you would be so happy and you would have no destructive thoughts and you would have no self-sabotage. I forgot the word. Sabotage. No self-sabotaging. You would have no guilt. You would not feel insecure. All right. In one way or another, every relationship the ego makes is based on the idea that by sacrificing itself, it becomes bigger. I hear this from parents and grandparents and people all the time. Do you know what I had to sacrifice for that? As if making more sacrifices makes you bigger. The sacrifice, which it regards as purification, is actually the root of its bitter resentment, for it would prefer to attack directly and avoid delaying what it really wants. Yet the ego acknowledges reality as it sees it, and recognizes that no one could interpret direct attack as love. Yet to make guilty is direct attack, although it does not seem to be, for the guilty expect attack, and having asked for it, they are attracted to it. You know, one of my one of my partners that works on my team, you know, constantly she is, you know, like, she feels like the more busy she is and the more sacrifice of sleep that she has, the more value she brings to her work, the more value she has in the working environment. Oh, I'm making so many sacrifices. I'm sleeping 2 hours a day, you know, and everything I have to do around work. But really, that doesn't give you any more value. You making sacrifices by creating guilt and shame. Guilt and shame does not equal more value. This is that mistake that we have. You know, if I just sacrifice more, then I become bigger. I become more holy. But we get something out of that. We get something by this sacrifice. We get sympathy, we get pity, we get all these other things that we think we want them, but we don't really want. That's why the Course says you don't perceive your best interest because you think you want sympathy, but really what you want is not that. What you really want, so you're getting something under the table, but what you really want is you want the loving relationship. You want the abundance that to operate and flow through your life. You want all of those things, not sympathy. And when we're willing to look at it truly, then because we are creatures, creatures of value, we would be like, sympathy or the dream or my dream life. Once we can actually weigh that, we're like, yeah, I don't want that. I don't want guilt. I don't want shame. I don't want special relationships. I don't want, I don't want sacrifice. But right now we think we want sacrifice. And then because we don't know any different, we impress it onto other people. And we're teaching other people that somehow sacrifice and getting sympathy equals value. It's not. Okay, sorry. I keep going on a tangent. Let me just read first. All right, Alex, just keep reading. In such insane relationships, the attraction of what you do not want seems to be much stronger than the attraction of what you do want. For each one thinks that he has to sacrifice something to the other and hates him for it. Yet this is what he thinks he wants. He is not in love with the other at all. He merely believes he is in love with sacrifice. And for this sacrifice, which he demands himself, he demands that others accept the guilt and sacrifice himself as well. Forgiveness becomes impossible. Thanks, Lisette. I'm telling you, this whole session here, Lisette, I felt truly inspired after you shared. And then, of course, this is the session. So thank you for being a catalyst as well. Your voice matters. There's so much power in your voice. I hope that in the Legends Leaders program that you begin to really claim that and bring it out into your messages. Forgiveness becomes impossible, for the ego believes that to forgive another is to lose him. It is only by attack without forgiveness that the ego can ensure the guilt that holds all its relationships together. Yet they seem to be together. For relationships to the ego mean only that bodies are together. It is always that the ego demands, and it does not object where the mind goes or what it thinks, for this seems unimportant. As long as the body is there to receive its sacrifice, it is content. To the ego, the mind is private and only the body can be shared. Ideas are basically of no concern, except as they bring to the body of another closer or further. And it is in these terms that it evaluates ideas as good or bad. What makes another guilty and holds him through guilt is good. What releases him from guilt is bad, because he would no longer believe that bodies communicate, and so he would be gone. Suffering and sacrifice are the gifts with which the ego would bless all unions. I mean, think about that. This is not how we, like, our society. If we just healed the idea of sacrifice, like, all of our traumas and all of our warring thoughts and attacks and judgments would just end. If we just decided that sacrifice has no value at all. Because then, where would guilt come from? Right? We always feel like we are sacrificing our time just to spend with somebody that we're like, yeah, I'm sacrificing. And so through guilt, all of our relationships are kind of built together on blocks, with guilt being the glue to them. And then hence, these are the special relationships, right? The holy relationship removes all of that, removes the barriers and the necessary glue, right, that holds them together. It's just all is in this one love, one perfect love. And you don't need to, the way you receive is the way you just give love. You remember who these people are, who your brothers are, as their holy self. And this is why the Course says, see other people's Christ consciousness, see the light in other people, see the spark in them, even though the ego says they are this way, that way, and they're not good for my relationship. You call forth the spark in somebody. At the end of this this call here, I'm actually going to show a video that reminds me of this. I'm just going to look it up real quick, and I'm going to show a video, and okay, cool. So that'll be at the end. I'll show a video. All right, let me continue reading. Come on, Alex. Those who are unlimited at its altar accept suffering and sacrifice at the price of union. In their angry alliance, born of fear of loneliness and yet dedicated to the continuance of loneliness, each seek relief from guilt by increasing it in the other. For each believe that this decreases the guilt in him. The other seems to always be attacking and wounding him, perhaps in little ways, perhaps unconsciously, yet never without demand of sacrifice. The fury of those joined at the ego's altar far exceeds your awareness of it, for what the ego really wants, you do not realize. So this is really interesting, because in my relationship with my wife, with love, every time she would say something, I would take it as an attack or as a criticism, and it just happens over and over, and I couldn't even help myself. And it's because that I believe also in this, I'm making sacrifices. When we believe that we make sacrifices, guilt and shame are not far behind. Okay, they're the conditions. Guilt is the condition of special relationship. Guilt is the condition of sacrifice. Just like peace and light and gratitude and compassion and kindness, all of that are the conditions of love. You don't need to do more of these things. They're just the conditions of how you do perfect love. When you let go of special relationship, of conditional love, when you stop withholding love from your brothers and sisters and stop demanding sacrifice of another in order to gain your respect or your love, we can't escape any of that. And then here, we think that if I get rid of some of my guilt, if I attack you and call you out, then somehow I have less of and you have more. But that's not the way it works. See, under the laws of God, what is shared is increased. under the laws of the ego, this, because sacrifice is real, then if I give you something, then I have less of it and you have more. See, the ego has its own logic, which doesn't actually happen, but it makes us believe that we have less. Right? And because the idea of sacrifice is real, that means if I give, then you must have more. And then so its lessons and its conditions are also perfectly in alignment to what it wants, which is to create separation. Now, following the ego comes with it all of these anxieties and, conflicts, confusions, and all of that. And where can we turn? Since we have given all the power to the ego, we can only turn to the Holy Spirit. We can turn to God, source, universe, anything that you want to call it that creates, that is the creator of the flow of our life. Whenever you are angry, be sure that you can be sure that you have formed a special relationship with which the ego has blessed. For anger is its blessing. It's blessing. The ego blesses anger. So when you are angry, you have formed a special relationship. And the ego has blessed the anger. Anger takes many forms, but it cannot long deceive those who will learn that love brings no guilt at all, and what brings guilt cannot be love and must be anger. All anger is nothing more than an attempt to make someone feel guilty, and this attempt is the only basis the ego accepts for special relationships. Crazy. Write this down. All anger is nothing more than an attempt to make someone feel guilty. That is what the ego wants. Is this what you want? You get sympathy for guilt, for shame, and for these things. You get sympathy. You get, people give you attention, whatever. But it's at the expense of your relationship, because all of your relationship, the ego wants to end in anger. Anger is nothing more than an attempt to make someone else feel guilty, because guilt is the name of the game. Guilt is a condition of separation, or vice versa. Guilt is the only need the ego has, and as long as you identify with it, guilt will remain attractive to you. Yet remember this: to be with a body is not communication. And if you think it is, you will feel guilty about communication, and you will be afraid to hear the Holy Spirit, recognizing in his voice your own need, to communicate. The Holy Spirit cannot teach through fear, and how can he communicate with you while you believe that communication is to make yourself alone? It is clearly insane to believe that by communicating with you, by communicating, you will be abandoned. And yet, many do lose them. But if their bodies are together, their minds remain their own. The union of bodies, this become the way in which you would keep minds apart. For bodies cannot forgive. They can only do as the mind directs. So this is like, again, you are not your body. Your body is formed out of millions and millions of cells of intelligence that follow your mind. Your mind is the medicine. Your mind directs your body. Every single cell follows the direction of your mind. So if you think that your body communicates, and if you think that you can put the body above the mind, you are automatically going to create separation. Because bodies are the ego's number one, evidence that we are separate. And if bodies can be separate, then the mind attached to the body must be separate, and hence are split. The split happens, and duality shows up in our mind, and separation becomes the name of the game. And so the ego wins. The illusion of autonomy of the body and its ability to overcome loneliness is but the working of the ego's plan to establish its own autonomy. As long as you believe that to be with a body is companionship, you will be compelled to attempt to keep your brother in his body and held there by guilt. And you will see safety in guilt and danger in communication. For the ego will always teach that loneliness is solved by guilt and that communication is the cause of loneliness. And despite the evident insanity of this lesson, many have learned it. Forgiveness lies in communication as surely as damnation lies in guilt. It is the Holy Spirit's teaching function to instruct those who believe communication to be damnation that communication is salvation. So this communication that we're talking about is that channel, right? That connection to source and to God. And he will do so for the power of God in him and you is joined in a real relationship so holy and so strong that it can overcome even this without fear. It is through the holy instant that what seems impossible is accomplished, making it evident that it is not impossible. In the holy instant, guilt holds no attraction since communication has been restored. And guilt, whose only purpose is to disrupt communication, has no function here. Here there is no concealment and no private thoughts. The willingness to communicate attracts communication to it and overcomes loneliness completely. There is complete forgiveness here, for there's no desire to exclude anyone from your completion in sudden recognition of the value of his part in it. In the protection of your wholeness, all are invited and made welcome. All are invited and made welcome. And you understand that your completion is God's, whose only need is to have you be complete. For your completion makes you his in your awareness, and here it is that you experience yourself as you were created and as you are. So this section is the needless sacrifice. Again, this is about how we've been doing relationships. Okay, kind of giving you guys a summary again is sacrifice creates guilt, right? And the next section that we're going to get into, perhaps we'll be able to do it on Wednesday, but I might be leaving. So if I leave before the call on Wednesday, then we won't have another call until I think September 7th. So it'll be like 2.5 weeks-ish. But I really want to just kind of leave you guys with how we do relationships, how we give and how we receive. Right? And how we can let go of the idea that we need to sacrifice in order to be under good graces of God and to be accepted into heaven and to have God's love. And if we think that way, then we don't demand this of others. Right? Okay. I want to just share this video really quick. And after I share this video, it's a really short video, and then we can open up for shares. All right. So 1 second.
I'm going to teach you a simple trick my husband does to stay hard for over 2 hours and last more than 3 rounds without using a single pill.
Okay. All right, here we go.
You may not agree with those who seem to have power over your happiness. But here is a great secret of life. You have way more influence than you realize. Gandhi called this influence truth force, love force, soul force. It is the inherent power in you to conjure the truth and the very best in other people. It is the power in you to change people's hearts and minds by changing the way you see them, by changing the way you observe them. Nobel physicist Max Planck said, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. Scientists have discovered that when a teacher is merely told a student has a higher IQ, that student's IQ rises to meet the teacher's expectations. Expecting the best from people brings out the best in people. But the reverse is also true. Seeing the worst in people brings out the worst in people. Your Your consciousness has the power to conjure the very best or the worst in everyone you observe, even at a distance. Our friends, our families, our children, our co-workers, our police, even our presidents. We have the power to change each and every one of their hearts and minds simply by changing our own hearts and minds about them. We all have darkness in us, but we also have the light. And in every moment we have another chance, another choice of whether darkness or the light is given reign over our consciousness. What you stand witness for in others is strengthened in them by the power of your observation. When you look for the worst in someone, when you make them wrong in your mind, when you refuse to see the best in them, you are committing a spiritual assault of the worst kind. For you are testifying against their ability to choose the light, standing witness for the darkness in them, and strengthening its power over their heart and mind. If you've ever faced a hostile crowd, a hostile cop, a hostile lover, you felt the destructive force of another's contempt for you. Do not give in to this way of seeing. Stand witness for the light in others. The unassailable divine spark forever shines in the hearts of every man, woman, and child, just waiting to be called forward. When you call on the divine spark in someone, you lend it the strength to prevail in their consciousness. The power of your divine witnessing calls forth the truth in other people's minds. It calls forth the love in their hearts. It calls forth the grace and the beauty of their souls. Divine witnessing is the most powerful form of nonviolence because it heals the very source of violence. It turns your enemies into friends, even when you thought they were deplorable and wrong. In a place where you see no light, you make your own. You call upon the divine spark within you and invite it to reveal itself in those who oppose you. The divine spark in your heart ignites itself in others through the blazing light and love of your consciousness. Witness for that, strengthen that, insist upon that. The truth in me calls out to the truth in you, for it is only that I will stand witness to. It is only that I am determined to see. It is only that I will testify for. For to condemn you would be to condemn me, and we are the same. And so I insist on regarding you as true and good and wise and kind. And so it will be, because that is what we all want to see.
Oh man, it's been a while since I watched that, but it's so great. Divine witnessing. All right, so I'd love to open it up now for anybody that feels the calling to share into this space. It's a really powerful call here today. The needless. Okay, great. Go ahead, Aaron.
Yeah, so one of the things I struggle with is sometimes seeing the good in certain people, like someone like my dad. He just walks around miserable and just unhappy, and I talk about all the things I do, and just shows no interest, and it's tough for me to see any improvement in him, and see the light in him. How do you recommend approaching something like that?
Yeah, so the first thing is that he does not need to earn his way into your approval either. Right? So like it's the acceptance, it's the true acceptance of where he's at, and just pour as much love into that as possible and divine witness him. As a child, like growing up and all the things he had to go through, and to just be the person that he is today. And what can you be grateful for? Like we start there. We don't need them to change. See, like this video, it's not, people do not need to change. You are either a witness to their light, or you are going to be a witness to their darkness. And that's it. It's the power that you have for your own miraculous mind, and knowing that all minds are joined, that as you witness him this way in his light, you conjure in him the light in him. And that's it. And you don't need, and he just like, he doesn't need to prove himself, right? He doesn't need to like take interest in what you're doing in order for you to now love him more and see him in a better light. Like that's this needless sacrifice again, right? Just see him perfectly as he is and know that you don't have to earn it. There is no sacrifice that is required for us to have divine relationships. So
it's something I just need to change in my own mind and then just accept them,
well,
love them regardless.
Yeah, because if you think about, I mean, the Course says there is no one else out there. There's only one mind, right? Like, the world does not need to change. Wars do not need to stop, and people don't need to behave differently. Just the way that you perceive them changes. That's all you need. You know, you let go of the warring thoughts in your mind, and from that mind, you are the one mind. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's a really great question. You know, we all face somebody in our life that is just like, they stand on an island and they don't deserve my love. Like, they need to earn it. We are kind of beaten into the world this way. So go ahead, Lizette.
Hey, thank you so much for tagging me in the chat to be here. What a powerful message. This really hits home because, I mean, like I shared a little bit on the call earlier, I guess a lot of us have like this religious trauma to overcome, so to speak. Like I literally used to sing hymns in church that were like, God saved a wretch like me, like we are not worthy. Like it was so like, I just grew up like having to perform so much. So like being at a place in my life now where I can just receive God's love gracefully and know that it's my birthright. It just feels so good. And like I've always seen the world, even since I was a little girl, like I've seen other people through very pure eyes and would kind of just turn the other cheek anytime someone was abusive or cruel to me. I would just feel like, well, they're probably hurting or whatever. Like I would just try to like, I would just see them. And then like in school, like people would be mean, and then years later like come back to me and just like want to be my friend and apologize. And it's so true. Like just extend love anyway, because the people that are acting like that need it the most. It doesn't mean don't have boundaries and allow people to like bully you and step all over you, but I don't hold any resentment or anger for anyone that has harmed me. And I guess my biggest monster as a kid was my dad. And you know, as a child, you put your parents' face on God, and so I just thought my two fathers were like these really mean, judgmental, ready to strike at any moment type of force. So it just is such a relief to now be in a place in my life where I can talk about this, one, and two, know that it's total BS what I was taught. And I am worthy of love just by existing, and everyone deserves that love, and just spreading that message I feel like is so important. So I still have to get, I actually don't even have this book yet. I still have to get it, but like I'm even more excited to read it now because it's just really touching home, and just wow. And then even your rants, like, is this recorded? Because I would like to hear it again.
Yes.
And I'm really glad I made this call, considering we're not going to have one for a while. And this being only my second one, and it being I'm just really, really grateful for you. And I know that I was meant to hear this message today. So thank you.
Oh, that's so beautiful. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, I mean, I grew up, half my family was Catholic, half my family Buddhist, and the Catholic side of my family really tried to beat God into my mind, you know? And it was just so much like control. And same thing, like, but you see, like, inside us, we know the truth. Like, that's not aligned, right? Like, we are born already connected. So, like, we know. And this is not to say that any way is worse or, better or worse, but we had to go through what we had to go through in order to spiritually awaken more to the truth, and it's not like we just get to be in contemplation constantly of just sending more love to everywhere. It's not wrong, right? It's only, the Course says it's not wrong, it's a delay. Like when you use guilt and shame, it's not bad, nor is it wrong. It's just a delay. See, we can start to even lighten the way that we are in judgment to other things as well. Yeah. Awesome. Other thoughts, questions, comments?
I'll go.
Yeah.
I mean, I love the topic today, the need of sacrifice. Because you touched on it before, like, it seems like, our parents and whatever were always, I sacrificed, this for you. And, you're like, wow, you feel grateful. Like, man, I have to do this as well. I'm going to have to sacrifice for, my family and all these things. I'm far from the truth. Like, I feel like the more that you're doing good and able to spread the light, the love that's inside of you, it just makes everything and everybody around you better, at least the way that you perceive it. And at the same time, like, I realize, like, it's not all about me. As part of the sonship, like, we are one, like, we're all brothers and sisters, and we treat each other as so. Some of those people that are really angry, and they're it's a call for love, and that's where we need to really, like, show them some love, whether it's through expression or just even, like, through prayer and meditation. So, at least for me, that's what works. And this course has been so, like, powerful in my transformation. I mean, you could have stopped on the first sentence. We could have had a whole conversation. I mean, each of these, sections, like the way you go through it, even when you talk, it's powerful, man. And the knowledge that's, just gets you to, like, at least try to see something a little differently, at least for me, the way that I perceive things. And it's like that saying, right? Seeing is believing. Well, now it's like believing is seeing, right? Believe that, hey, I can look at this a different way. Like Aaron was mentioning about his father. It's like I had the same thing. I have stepfather is super religious. I was like, Catholic, but he's like, he's angry. Like, how does that work? How do you go from church and like you're angry the next minute? But for those people like them, look at it different. Like, hey, something happened to him, and something happened in somebody's life that we have no idea about. What they're going through. Just meet them where they're at. Just show the love. But I love today's the needless sacrifice. Awesome. And thank you for doing this. Even though Chris is not on here, he's still, back to 12 o'clock. That's awesome. So I wouldn't miss it even if I'm at SeaWorld.
Oh man, I really appreciate you and all that you've been sharing, and like being in my life at this time right now too. Like, really appreciate you. But I'd want to do just kind of also, you said it's not about me, but the Course says there is no one else, right? So it's like it's about Mike with a capital M, like the Mike that is one with everything. It only matters the way that with the only way that you see the world. Like, in your awareness, every single thought that you think either summons or blocks a miracle. There's no in between. There is no, like, sometimes it does. No, right now, the way that your thought is to the situation, to the person, to everything, it's either going to summon a miracle or it's going to block the miracle. In every single moment of our life, if we, like Aaron, if Aaron holds grievance against his dad, he is going to block miracles. The only thing that's matter is in his mind, his perception, his experience of his life and of his relationship, right? If he can be complete, peace is what we want. If he could be completely at peace with it, then there is nothing to prove. There's nothing to sacrifice. Nothing's happening, right? Like you just have this you're loving your dad just exactly the way he is. Nothing else really matters. They don't need to dance or perform or do anything according to what you want, right? So that's the power of this, is like it's only our ability, our willingness to allow miracles to show up right now. And with every single thought, we either block it or we invite it. All right, so Michael, you had your hand up? You're muted.
Hey, good morning, everybody from Ashland, Oregon, and the West Coast. And I had a little ceremony last night before I went to bed, and I cleared this space that I'm in, and feels really good. The rain came yesterday. I've been spending time with my son, and just like the reflection that I have, or the thoughts or feelings I have towards this subject is neutral, and yet at the same time just direct from experience. I open myself to the miracles of being an open vessel of God and nature and the Holy Spirit for a human communication system in this moment, to just acknowledge and receive everything that's being shared and circulating inside of my own consciousness, reflected in others. And with that, we grew up, each and every one of us in the United States of America grew up either some kind of hardcore Christian or Catholic. The Europeans came over here and, took over Native America with genocide. We're living on a land of genocide here, built off of murder and death and rape and pillaging the human species. And it's so easy to easily try to forget about that and be like, oh, I'm just going to focus on building my big mansion and building my big dream and da-da-da-da-da. Well, I come to speak for the ancestors and the people of this sacred land. The pain and the suffering and the sacrifice goes back to these stories that we were all born in and doctrined into and brainwashed, spiritually brainwashed beyond our wildest imaginations, that Christ put himself on the cross to sacrifice his life for all of us. So we want to talk about an age of struggle and sacrifice, moving out of Pisces and into Aquarius, which is what my sun sign is. I'm a hardcore Aquarian, humanitarian, loving human being. And, I'm here to shatter that illusion within my own consciousness and within the collective consciousness. It's a bunch of BS. So this needless sacrifice, it all comes from this story in the Bible, and beyond, how all these masters sacrificed their lives for us, right? It's like, just think about that for a moment, and how deep that runs in our human psychology, and how deep that enslaves us to a story it's just a figment of our imaginations, for God's sakes. Right? Did Jesus Christ really die on the cross for all of us to learn how to sacrifice our lives for the collective soul? I don't know. All I know is that I'm an open vessel, and I'm letting Spirit just pass right on through me. I don't know a damn thing. I'm here to learn. I'm here to serve, I'm here to love, and I'm here to remember. And hopefully just be a kind, loving presence for my brothers and sisters. And I just thank God, and I thank nature, and I thank each and every one of you for having the ability to be present and, explore and navigate this realm together as one unified consciousness. I love you all. May more miracles and more miracles continue to happen in every one of our lives. Amen. Aloha. Blessed be.
Beautiful. Now, I do want to point out to some things, right? And they're like, the idea of sacrifice, did not come after Christ. I mean, the fact that that would even happen, the idea of sacrifice and guilt was already happening, right? So even if you think about as far back as it goes in all of humanity, the humans or whatever, there was always passed down stories of things of sacrifice. We need to sacrifice. We need to sacrifice. I mean, every show about the Vikings, about, you know, anything required sacrifice, right? So it's not like it came from this story or that story, but the story of Christ, here is the invitation, is where do I focus my awareness, my attention to? Is it to the crucifixion or the resurrection? See, that story is there for you, depicting exactly the two states of mind in which wherever you focus your awareness and consciousness, you will create your experience around life, around people, around your stories, and all of that. The crucifixion is the nailing of Christ to the cross, representing the guilt and the consciousness of mankind. The resurrection is beyond all the physical, beyond all the attack and the judgments that could have happened and all the adversity, that Christ still rose, which is the resurrection, that love can never, ever be defeated. That light would never be defeated by darkness, no matter how much perceived darkness there is, because light is encompassing of all of that, right? So that's the in our mind. Do we focus on the crucifixion? Do we focus on all the guilt and shame and all the things that have happened to us, or do we focus on the love that still exists after all of that, and that we can still be in the place talking about love and A Course in Miracles and the needless sacrifice and how to build relationship without withholding love anywhere, right? Because even in the story that you told, there was parts of it that, like, I can feel energies attached to, right? Even the way that you said brainwashed, right? Like the energy that's attached to those things, that's the place where you send love. You know, there's a healed version of that, which doesn't create more of guilt and shame and stuff like that, right? Because
I personally was so pushed away from Christianity as a young child, like I think a lot of us have been, like, from that trying to force feed. And if you don't do such and such, you'll go to hell or whatever, you know, like all those things that are force fed. Well, that's what I mean, the brainwashing. It's like, where as a child, you go to Bible school and you go to this every Sunday. We're taking here. I mean, the whole thing. We went Wednesdays, Sundays. My mom took me to this Revelations thing to go see the devil take over the world, all this crazy shit. That left a huge imprint in my psychology, and I went the complete opposite direction from spirituality as a young man, right? And then I chose cannabis, alcohol, and cocaine to try to, you know, navigate through all that pain and that suffering, right? And that, I personally chose the deepest and the darkest path of pain and suffering, right? To experience, to know what it is, to know what it isn't. And I had to find my own way back to God. I had to develop my own relationship. Like, my birth name, just to be clear, y'all, my birth name is Robert Vincent Galat. It's French Canadian. I had a spiritual awakening on 11/11/11 that took me on a rainbow bridge over to Kauai. And I sat and I meditated with a 700-pound Arkansas Atlantean quartz crystal at a Hindu monastery. I didn't know what the hell was going on. All I know is my spirit and my soul was taking me home, sat me on the highest vibrational island on planet Earth that I've ever stepped foot on, Grandmother Kauai, my home, my spiritual heart center. And it was through sitting in complete silence, defragging my mind and listening to the Akashic records inside of this massively huge 700-pound crystal that was put on an airplane and taken to Arkansas, or taken to Kauai from Arkansas, that I received my own Akashic records and light memories. And what's super trippy about this is that I was so against spirit and God and religion, but on my prayer in this monastery, somehow my body and my soul, not my mind, right? So we have some differences in thought. Not my mind, it was my body and my soul and my heart and my intuition that guided me, not my mind. My mind was crazy, psychotic from what was put into it. But I was guided and I listened. I signed every prayer with a Star of David and a heart and angel wings. It's an ancient Sufi symbol that was just recorded inside of my consciousness. And I signed at the top of the prayer, I'd sign on the front of the prayer, I am releasing all attachments and expectations within universal creation. I am releasing all attachments and expectations within universal creation. And I don't know what happened, but I signed the top, like my spirit just knew, and I signed the top of it as Lord Christ Michael. And then I signed the bottom of the prayer as Robert Vincent Galat, my human birth name. And somehow God's self, higher self, was getting me to transform this lower self, this limited human self. And ultimately, I was sent a woman who gave me children that ultimately helps me legally transform my name, my consciousness, and somehow I am legally on paper, on bank accounts, on social security card, and birth certificates, Michael Vincent Avalon. I took the last name of the mother of my children. I kept my middle name from my father, and I took on my angelic presence, because that's just how it happened naturally. And that ultimately, that's how my faith was restored, was through some serious transformation of blame, shame, and guilt and sacrifice. And I still to this day don't understand it. I literally don't get it. I just know that I'm here to witness all of it, like the pain, the suffering, the blame, the shame, the guilt, and even in this moment, like just to choose love when my finances are shitty, when I don't know where I'm gonna live next month, and when my finances are shitty. I'm just saying, like it could be a lot better, right? So like this is just real life stuff. No matter how high or how low we get, I'm just learning, man. I don't understand. I even reached out for help, Alex, yesterday, because I don't know, bro. I don't know. All I know is I got some really nice things to offer, but I need as much help as I can get from this collective community, and I thank you.
Yeah, beautiful.
And I appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that story. And yeah, you can post that since you shared it here, you can post your offering and whatever in the Course in Miracles community. See if, there is anyone that is, resonating with that. But
so I have a question for the person who just spoke. So do you still believe in Jesus, or you kind of walked away from that faith? I'm just curious.
No, thank you for asking, but the truth is that my faith, I believe in Jesus, Buddha. Actually, I went all the way away from Christianity and went into Hinduism, and I went to Shiva's temple, and Lord Shiva helped me transform.
Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you. Lord Shiva helped me transform, and then I went all the way back to it. Actually made my faith a gazillion times stronger, and now I believe in Jesus, Shiva, Krishna, Buddha, all as equal masters, all equal teachers within the one.
Awesome. Okay, yeah, I mean, similar story for me. I went from Catholic to Buddhist, like completely the other way, and then now I wear a cross because Jesus is a reminder of love and forgiveness for me. Okay, Samsara, take us home. This will be the last share. I'm so glad that you're here. So glad you're sharing.
Hi, everybody.
What up?
Your story really activated me. So I'm really glad that you shared your wisdom and your journey with your name. because I hopped on here because I saw the text saying this will be the last call for a while. And I'm like, oh, shoot, I got to hop on. And I'm also integrating a really powerful TP ceremony I had just 2 days ago. It's taking me like 2 days to come out of my shell after that. But a lot of things have come through and showing me where my work is, and a lot of it has to do with my name, and that's why, Mikhail, when you were saying that, I was like, okay. We're talking my name. So in this teepee ceremony, there's a portion. It's very structured, and there's a portion of the ceremony in which we pass a mapacho, tobacco, and every single person gets to pray out loud. And usually the facilitator will share what the theme is and what we're praying for. And so this time around, it was about who needed our prayers the most. And, the mapacho went around, like first 5 people, I was doing fine. I was getting my prayers ready. And then I just sunk in and I felt all of the suffering of the world, specifically people that are facing injustice, anyone facing injustice in the world. And typically in teepee, I can keep myself together and hold it together, but I was falling apart, and a lot of people were concerned about me, like thinking I was like, I don't know. Luckily I pulled myself together for the prayer, and my prayer was for people that were facing injustice in the world. And I feel so deeply because a lot of what my work is, I really am on the path of being a bodhisattva, which is I'm just here to relieve the suffering of others in any way that I can.
I hope.
And yeah, and I think the prayer that I had was really strong, maybe triggering in some way, but not pointed towards anybody. But it's just like no one in the circle was saying anything about injustice. And like we hear about this all the time in the news, and I'm not saying like the injustice of black and white and politics and blah blah blah. I'm talking about the injustice of humanity, and that we should be called forward to name injustice, to show that we have empathy and care for others, right? And so the rest of the ceremony goes on, and one of the facilitators came up to me, and he was like, can I speak to you in private about something? And I'm still very high on the medicine. And I was really worried that, oh shoot, did my injustice prayer trigger this person? And I went into this whole process of going to each and every person and just saying, I hope I didn't cause any harm. Like, I really am just someone that's for humanity. It's just someone has to name it, right? And then when the facilitator pulled me aside, he was like, Samsara, have you ever thought about changing your name? And I was like, wait, what? Well, okay, this whole time my mind was wrapped around that I might have caused harm with somebody. But every person I went to, they were like, no, that was an incredible prayer. I'm glad that you said something about it. And I was like, why would you bring up this thing about my name? And he's like, well, you've been stepping up, having these really great, strong prayers. You're in a leadership space now. You're holding the mezcal. You're holding these sacred spaces. And, if you're leading these spaces, like, I think so much about the cycle of suffering. And I'm like, you know what? Samsara holds a lot of karmic responsibility. And I've been on this path with this name for more than 5 years now. It's a given name. And I almost forgot why I received this name. And I was like, yeah, I'll contemplate it. And the following morning, I had a very tender moment because I remembered why my shift of name happened. Very similar to you, Mikhail, which is I have a lot of religious trauma that is tied to my birth name. I remembered so much of the abuse, physical, mental, emotional abuse that I went through with my family. I mean, now we're great, but a lot of abuse was associated with that. And then following after leaving my family, so much abusive partners I ended up being with. And so my name, Christine, my original name, was associated with that. And so taking on the name of Samsara when it was given to me in ceremony was a reclamation of my path, and also recognizing Samsara, and also recognizing that there's a bigger mission. And maybe the history that I've had with abuse and the name that I've had is a greater calling to something even greater. And so I've just been in this contemplation about suffering a lot recently. And like, why did I have this type of emotional reaction during the ceremony about injustice? And it's like, what is my relationship to suffering? And I'm curious, Alex, too, what your opinion is from ACIM. But there is suffering in this world regardless. We live in this space of duality, even though we're under the umbrella of one. And it's like, how do we meet suffering with love, but also not abandoning ourselves in the process? And so that's just been my greatest contemplation in my integration after this ceremony. And I'm really curious, Alex.
Just tell them we'll be a little late. You already know this is going late. Yeah, so really beautifully said, because A Course in Miracles is not about that suffering. We shouldn't even think that suffering exists, right? Yes, in heaven, all of this really means nothing. Okay, like the suffering and all this, and to even give it any thought, it was all an illusion in the dream that you think that attack and judgment and warring and injustice is actually happening. Because we can look, to what degree, right? Like we can look at, do insects attacking other insects, or like ant colonies attacking, termite? Like, should we have a lot of what if we started to have all sorts of, emotional thoughts around that too? So we're able to live above it, but the Course says this whole thing is about the direction of where you're going. We are working inside the ego's framework, which means suffering itself and the idea of suffering. What is it for? Is really the only questions that needs to be contemplated on is, what is it for? What is it for me? Why do I want to, why is this showing up in my space? What is it for me? And so when you, and that's the prayer, you just pray to Spirit to show you. I can't give you the answer. I live inside the ego construct as well, and my game that I'm playing is, yes, I honor the feelings and I honor the experience around all of that and our, thoughts around it. But remember, again, every single thought that you have, so around suffering and all that, does it invite and summon a miracle? A miracle is a shift from fear to love, from confusion to clarity, right? And that confusion to clarity is, what is it for? When you can realize on a greater scale what was it all for, then you are healed from it, right? The forgiveness and healing from it is to truly understand it. But to truly understand it doesn't come from your limited mind of your perception from the lens of Alex. I have to ask for that answer to be shown to me, and that's why we do participate in a lot of these plant medicine ceremonies, because they show you something that goes beyond your ego. And so every thought either summons the miracle for you in your mind, or it will block it, right? So it's same thought about suffering and injustice, same thing is showing up in my mind, but the thinking that you have towards it and the willingness to ask Spirit to intervene and tell you what it's for rather than you figure it out, what it's all for at the end of the day is to strengthen our connection to Source, Divine, and God. It forces you to pose that question so that you can open up the channel. That's what the Course says. At the end of the day, that's what we all really want. But we're trying to figure out the form of things that are happening on this planet. And we're like, nothing really makes sense, right? And we're going to have conflicts around it constantly. So that's thank you for your shares. Your shares are always very, very powerful and intentional, Samsara. So I love that you bring that to our space. Now I do have to go, but the TP ceremony that Samsara is talking about is a cactus ceremony. We are actually hosting another one, and the facilitators from Peru are actually coming up to Florida on the 27th, I believe, in Florida. So if anybody's interested in sitting in those ceremonies with us, I will be there. We'll talk about that, and it's a grandfather medicine, and it's deeply grounding and brings up a lot of the like ancestral thing. Like for me, I was channeling for myself, what's my legacy? What am I doing here? Like, and the idea of this, like, leaving things for future generations, and that I may not see the fruits of things that I'm doing today, and I got to be okay with it. And I learned later on that in the Native American ways, with these medicines, they have a principle called the 7th generation principle, which is what you're doing today, how it affects 7 generations from now. So message me directly if you are interested in joining us in this ceremony in Florida. It's going to be in Plantation, September 27th. It's a 3-day retreat, and we will sit with this medicine twice. Okay, that is my public announcement of what we're doing. But anyways, that's it. That's all, folks. Love you guys so much, and thank you for such a powerful call here today, and a great reminder for all of us. And I will see you guys maybe on Wednesday. If not, then September 7th it is. Have a great August.
I have a quick question. Do we have a school community for miracles?
No, we do not. We have a WhatsApp community.
Oh, we do have a WhatsApp community. Okay. Is it okay to add me to it, or should I send it?
Yeah, fine. Look, go on my Facebook, and the link will be in the description of this call.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right, everybody. Have a good one. Bye, everyone.